Hello and welcome to the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates. Joining me are my colleagues Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein on this Sunday after the Packers win 34-13 over the Arizona Cardinals, moving to 4-2 on the season. Let's jump straight into the offense and just looking at what they did. Tom, just what were your general observations of just what the group did on this Sunday?
Very solid performance. The 34 points seems like it was extraordinary performance, but I don't know if I'd go that far. They put up a lot of yards. They were fairly efficient. I think they're starting to find some kind of continuity between their run game and pass game finally. And, the run game's been pretty consistent in terms of yards. And now I think we're starting to see the pass game kind of marry off of that. And I think that's kind of what we saw today was, besides the fact that Arizona players were dropping like flies, I mean, they must have lost like 8 guys during the game. Just incredible. I mean, they probably can't wait to get out of Green Bay or couldn't wait to get out of Green Bay. I thought they handled what Arizona threw at them defensively, and Arizona threw, some different things at them that made the day difficult. They played a 5-man front all game, brought a safety down. They were sending zero blitzes right and left on third down, so they tried pretty much everything to trip up the Packers, but they just couldn't do it.
Ryan, what'd you see out there from this group? And have to say it was one of the better overall performances from the team.
It was their best game of the season for sure. But I'm with Spoon. They left some points out there. Braden Arvison, which we'll get to at the end, unfortunately. Very, very unfortunately. He missed a kick. Shocking. What else is new? Not much. They had a drive going at the end of the half, too, and just a completely unlucky play where Bo Melton slips on a wet field. He's open, so Jordan Love throws it to him. Would have been a catch, but he's on the ground, and it's an interception.
Rodgers would have petitioned to have that not count as an
Right.
interception.
Aaron Rodgers would have drawn a patch of around that grass and condemned it. But no, they left some points on the board, and you look up and it's 34 points. I just we're talking about it during the game, Don. Like this is the best they've looked all season. And also, this is how they're supposed to look. This is I wrote about. Look, Romeo Doubs comes back, has 2 touchdowns. It's a big part of this game, right? Because of the past week and a half. But to me, what stood out more is the 9 catches, the 9 players with a catch, the parity on this offense. This is why it's such a tricky balance where they have such a glut of playmakers that when they all click like this. I asked Christian Watson, what's it like to stop you guys with this? And he's like, it's pretty much impossible. And I think he's pretty much right. You can't stop 9 guys that can catch a ball and 10 guys get targets. But there's egos, too. So that's the whole – I thought you saw the whole past 2 weeks kind of come together here. Romeo Doubs, 2 touchdowns, the parity on offense, the depth, and how they navigate this going forward.
That is true. That balance really did stand out to me as well. I mean, with Josh Jacobs had about 19, 20 carries himself. They obviously got Emmanuel Wilson going, but also they've used Bo Melton in the run game. They're using Chris Brooks, who's been on the practice squad. He got some carries today. So that really does stand out to me as well. And, Tom, you kind of wrote talking about just the run game and how it's being used and what have been your just observations in particular as of late.
Yeah, so, you can make all the comparisons you want between last year and this year, Aaron Jones versus Josh Jacobs, but they're a different running team now. They're more of a gap scheme team, which, they pull linemen. They're not like an outside zone, inside zone like they were with Aaron Jones mostly. And that's to fit their running back. Their running back is a between the tackles power guy who, doesn't break a lot of long runs, but, when it's all said and done, he's averaging, I think, 4.2 yards per carry this year or something like that. So it helps them when teams, load up the box, and he can still get yardage when a team loads up the box. And that's kind of what the Cardinals did today. But then you're seeing, So Emmanuel Wilson has kind of shifted his game to that gap scheme. He was a little bit more of a zone guy last year, although he didn't play that much last year. He had 14 carries last year.
He's been a bigger part of the offense this year.
And I think he's kind of just gotten on to Josh Jacobs' coattail. No, that's the wrong analogy. He's kind of gotten, carried his wind, and followed him. And then you made reference to it. They don't have an outside threat. And so now they're employing Melton and Reed. Those are their outside threats until Marshawn Lloyd comes back. They got to get him healthy because they're going to need that kind of an outside threat at some point. You face defenses like the Vikings, who are much better than this, and you're going to need, sort of a three-pronged. You got to run inside, you got to run outside, you got to be able to run with, 8 men in the box.
What's the first thing we thought of that day this past spring when they made the switcheroo? I don't know about you, Spoon, but the first word that came to my mind was workhorse, right? That's something that they never had with Aaron Jones. And as you see these first 6 games play out, it seems like what we initially thought, the Packers making a switch here and having more of a reliable volume guy is been a big part of this offense. Like in Josh Jacobs, he's not like Aaron Jones was the perfect low volume guy. You give him 12 carries in a game, he's going to get 100 yards. Like that's what he did. But it's hard for that to be a bedrock to the offense, right? Because he's just not getting the ball enough in the run game. With Josh Jacobs, you're getting at least 15 carries a game, a lot of times closer to 20. If they needed it today, he'd have over 20 carries. And he's built where he can do that every week. He's led the league before in carries. He's going to be top 5 this year if he stays healthy. Like that's his game. Josh Jacobs is not a pretty runner, and we've seen for the last 7 years, we've seen a very pretty runner in Aaron Jones. He's not a pretty runner, but he's effective, he's productive, and because he's high volume, and you can rely on that, he's a bedrock to this offense that just gives you week in, week out a balance that going into a game you're going to have. I think that's huge for the passing game, for Matt LaFleur as a play caller. It's huge to have a guy that's reliable with his volume.
He's what A.J. Dillon always should have been, and I could never get him to do that, be that just power guy. Like it would have been the perfect complement if Aaron Jones and him could have really, meshed. But Dillon never kind of made it into that back. But Emmanuel Wilson is sort of being that complement now. Mm-hmm. But I really think they need the last piece is Marshawn Lloyd. They got to have a speed threat that will make teams really get nervous about them being able to get outside.
Yes, that's definitely going to be a huge piece. I want to circle back and talk more about Romeo Doubs. When we did the podcast on Thursday, he didn't talk, but on Friday, he did address the media, and then he talked after this win. What were your takeaways from the conversation with Romeo? And then as a second part of that, just what did you see from him on the field today?
I gotta be honest, and we can get into Romeo Doubs more for sure, but my takeaway today, watching this offense, especially this passing game, was not Romeo Doubs. He was a part of the takeaway. He made some incredible plays. I mean, the adjustment that he made on that second touchdown when the Cardinals are in cover 0 and they're bringing 7, and Jordan Love's facing an unblocked rusher in his face and just says, the hell with it, and throws up the ball, throws up a punt, and just the play's out of his hands at that point. It's up to Romeo Doubs. Pick, touchdown, it's up to Romeo Doubs. And he makes a great play on it. He is part of this. But, again, I mentioned the numbers. 9 players with at least a catch, only 1 with more than 3. 10 players with at least a target, only 1 with more than 4. That's this Packers offense at its best because, goodness, what's another team in the league that can go 9 deep? I mean, you look at today alone, the backup third-string tight end who's replacing an injury replacement for Luke Musgrave makes a great play down the left sideline. That's your third-string tight end. I thought for sure at first it was 85. It wasn't Tucker Kraft. It was Ben Sims.
Yeah.
Your starting running back's got 3 catches on 3 targets. Your backup has a 19-yard screen. Everywhere they are, they have depth in terms of playmakers. And just think about these last 2 games. Now, going back to L.A. and today, you got Jaden Reed catches a 53-yard bomb in triple coverage blind. He didn't see the ball hit his hands. Just caught it blind in triple coverage down the field. Tucker Kraft takes a little dump off, 15-yard dump off, and and runs the next 50 yards for a touchdown. And today he's a decoy on Christian Watson's 44-yard touchdown. They get a deep shot to Christian Watson today. That's his element in the offense. And then Romeo Doubs with 2 touchdowns on third downs. Like, they have so many playmakers. Dontavian Wicks had the shoulder injury left, but that play that he made, his back is basically to the defense on 3rd and 3, behind the marker, makes a guy miss, gets 9 yards. There's not a lot of guys that make that play.
No.
They have so many options. And if they get, I just kept thinking, if they get everyone to buy into that concept, Jaden Reed said it's the glory of our offense. And he's right. That is what makes them special. If everyone buys in that concept, it could be a Super Bowl. If not, it could be a catastrophe. I think that's the line that they're going to be towing this entire season.
Yeah. I want to ask you the same thing, Spoon, just from what you saw, though, just with the receivers, just with the offense, but also just with Doubs in terms of how did he handle dealing with the media, taking the questions, and then going out there and just playing the way he did.
Yeah, I did not get to talk to him, so you're going to have to ask Ryan about that. But my observation was that today I thought Love it's the first time I've really seen Love be Love. Yeah. The throw to Doubs for the first touchdown was a dime.
Yeah,
that guy's right there. He can only put it in one place, and he put it there. The one he threw to Watson over the middle, he's got to throw it over 3 guys, and he knows he's got a tall 6'5" receiver, and he puts it right where he has to put it.
Yeah. The Reed ball.
Which one?
The Reed ball. The
Reed
touchdown.
The first one.
That was a tough
5
angle.
yarder.
Oh my God,
it was a
that was
mismatch
right over
on a
the corner.
linebacker, but that's
Yeah.
a tough angle, right?
Yeah, right over the shoulder.
It was. And I'm even going to argue with you about the deep ball.
Which one?
The Doubs deep
the second
ball.
one.
I don't know if I'm more impressed with Love on that one or Doubs, because Doubs had to find it. That was big.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think there's any way he could get it even close to the goal line with that guy in his face and throwing it with both feet off the ground. That was remarkable. So he's got that. It seems like he found a little bit of himself today. And you talked to him. You should actually talk about what he saw and what he thought about himself.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing with Love, he just feels more comfortable. I think you can tell that now even more so when he plays. He's not thinking about the knee. He's not thinking about all that. He's just playing loose. He's playing free. And you saw some scrambles. He had, 3 scrambles in this game. Had, 2 against the LA Rams. So I think that's just how he's feeling. He feels like the offense is getting into a rhythm. And he's just a big part of that. And he said when the offense is at its best, that's when everybody is touching the ball. And you saw that on full display in this game. So 22 of 32, 258, 4 touchdowns and 1 pick. And it was to Bo Melton. If he doesn't slip and fall, that's not going to be an interception.
On Love, right?
Yeah, so it's not on Love. But he felt really good about this game, but he went to the coach/player cliches of just one game at a time, got to keep working. But you do know Houston is a really good team that's going to be in here next week. But at least he said this game is a good step for momentum in moving forward.
I thought this was what Jordan Love, everyone expected him to be going into the season. We hadn't quite seen it yet, but he was that today. Yeah. Ask yourself this question. That jump ball that he throws to Romeo Doubs, Aaron Rodgers make that pass in that situation? I don't know. Does he throw it out of bounds? I don't know. And I'm not dumping on Aaron Rodgers, okay? I make that very clear.
Right. He's
a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a 4-time MVP.
You ready for all the comments?
He was as good at the quarterback position for a stretch of time as about you've ever seen, okay? But still, you just the more we see of Jordan Love, the more I think, you tell me, but the more I think we see Brett Favre in him as a guy that's willing to take that risk. And so I think you have to give him credit for giving his guy a chance to make a play, and then Romeo Doubs goes out and makes the play. And I watched that play back. A heck of a job on Romeo Doubs' part, locating that ball early, and he made the corner look silly. And that's the same corner, Sean. I'm gonna
with Sean Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy Bunting.
Yeah,
he had the pick.
Yeah.
He had the pick though.
Yeah.
He had the pick, and he made him look silly on that play. He went up and made a play. Now, as far as Romeo, look, this is it's a weird situation. I mean, I don't know what to make of it. I did speak with him Friday, and I spoke with him after the game today. I would say it was an awkward interview at his locker on Friday. I think that's the best way to describe it. He made very clear that, in his words, his targets was not part of what made him upset. His role in the offense was not what made him upset. He said, when I asked him point blank, why did you decide to skip practice last week? He said that he was dealing with some things mentally. Okay, I think if you watch that interview, it would be very easy to just say, okay, he had some mental things going on, give the guy a break. But the Packers know more than anybody what's actually happening. And instead of giving him a break, they suspended him for conduct detrimental to the team. Christian Watson said it was a significant situation. Yeah. He said that he spoke with Romeo Doubs before Wednesday's practice, and he said that he knew not everything he had to say was going to be what Romeo Doubs wanted to hear, but he's going to say it anyway because that's what you do with family, which is what they are in that locker room. There were some tough truths there. So if it was only dealing with things mentally, I don't think he gets suspended for conduct detrimental to the team.
Absolutely not. They're not a team that would.
No.
If you're having, some kind of issue in that regard with mental health.
Oh, yeah.
They're not the kind of organization that would do that. I mean, they've bent over backwards for Corin Robinson when he was an alcoholic, and they wouldn't let him drive. They drove him back and forth from the facility. That's a while ago, but that's still the kind of thing that they would do. So, also the club hasn't really fought back on that narrative.
Nope.
You don't hear it from anybody saying.
And they would. If it was just abjectly false, they would say so.
Yeah. I was a little concerned that his facial expressions, and don't want to read too much into it, but it just looked like he was disengaged.
Yeah.
I mean, he was clearly happy when he scored the first touchdown, but it was almost like he was trying really hard not to show any emotion whatsoever. And to me, that would have been one of those, if it were like Jair Alexander, he would have been, throwing the
Full
ball 50 rows into the seats, just like I showed you guys. And I'm not sure. He's complicated fellow, as Ted Thompson said of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what to make of it.
I said Friday was awkward because I don't know a better word to say than that. Yeah. Spoke with him today after the game at his locker, and it was interesting because I saw a guy who was kind of devoid of emotion. It's just I can only, in speaking with him person to person, only describe what that's like. Like the conversation we're having now, or any conversation you have with a person, it was devoid of emotion. This is a guy that just scored 2 touchdowns after getting suspended last week. Yeah. That's a heck of a return. Oh, yeah. That's a big deal. Yeah. He was a big part of this win today. It literally took 6-7 minutes into the interview, and Rob Demoski of ESPN, our colleague on the beat, finally asked him point blank, Romeo, are you happy? And for the first time, he smiled. He hadn't smiled until then. So we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scene, but it's just
my experience on the beat has been when a guy has done something or been wronged, or the media has found out something about him, the players get really defensive. Yeah. And they're like, leave him alone, and that kind of stuff. And I haven't seen that at all, have you?
No, I haven't.
I kind of looked over there a while, and I didn't really see him with other teammates, but I don't want to say that definitively because I only looked over there like once or twice. But, usually there's guys very protective of their teammates, and you obviously didn't see that Friday, right? There weren't guys like yelling, all right, let him
all
go,
last
let
week.
him go.
You know what you did see, though? And this we're not going to speculate. We're just going to keep it at what we've heard and what we've seen. What we have heard and seen going back to this past week is multiple guys, not Romeo Doubs, refer to mental health. Christian Watson did it. So, and Romeo Doubs obviously did. Like, we've heard references to mental health. So that very well could be an element to this. But again, if it's the only element to this, he's not suspended for contact detrimental to the team.
That's a great point, and that's the thing I was even trying to figure out, because I like to look at body language too, facial expressions. How do you handle it? And I remember even asking him Friday, what was it like coming back into the locker room? Was it awkward? What were the emotions? He just kind of was like, no emotions, just very stoic, very down to business. So it's hard to figure out what it's like, and even ask him what it was like with the teammates hugging you after the touchdown. The fans cheered for you. It's just like, well, that's cool.
After the second touchdown, I mean, what really stood out to me all day in terms of his gameplay and the energy and the emotion, after his second touchdown, a terrific play on his part, huge play in the game, because the Cardinals had started to build some momentum, right? I mean, that touchdown really capped things. At that point, you knew, okay, they're going to hold on. This is going to be a go-away win. He gets a huge play on the corner, and he just gets up and hands the ball to the official, and there's no smile. There's nothing. I mean, that stood out. That was very evident. So who knows? But I will say this. This is a team in a locker room with bigger goals in mind this year that desperately wants to move on from this situation. And I think that if nothing else, his return today helps that. Like coming back and having 2 touchdowns, having a big part of the win, big part of the offense. It does help enable that going forward. It's a lot better than if he came back and he was just shut out of the offense. And I think that would be a much more difficult situation at this point.
Yeah, in the comments from the players, it appears they're on the same boat. They were cheering for him. They were happy for him. And, Jaden Reed was a couple lockers over, just like, I see you, Rome. You know what I mean? He was very complimentary. So at least there's the steps, and seem like they all are in this together. So another group that is clicking and all in it together is the defense. Tom, what did you see from that group today, and just overall observations? You hold the Cardinals to 13 points, which isn't an easy feat. Just what did you make of it?
Number one priority was keep Murray in the pocket and then stop James Conner. I didn't think that stopping Harrison was like a number one goal of theirs. I thought stopping the run and stopping Murray were the 2 primary goals, and I think that's what they did well. They did not get Murray out, let him out of the pocket all that much. And when he did get out, there was always somebody, at least, maybe at the most 10 yards down the field, who was ready to cut him force him to the sideline. So I thought they did that pretty well. Pass rush, okay, nothing great. But I thought for all the flack that Rashawn Gary gets, I thought he played the run really well. He was very active in the run. And their secondary continues to be pretty solid, and I like the move. We talked about it on Thursday, about possibly putting Keyshawn Nixon on the outside in place of Stokes and Valentine. And I like that move. I think, one, it rewards Keyshawn Nixon for playing hard and sends a message to Stokes and Valentine, either tackle or you're on the bench. And I thought that they did a nice job of using both Williams and Bullard. So, Bullard is in there in the base defense, and as soon as they go to nickel, Bullard goes off and Williams comes out, and then Nixon goes to the slot, and then Stokes comes in. So they used, like, everybody back there. It was really pretty smart the way they did it. Overall, it was... they gave up some yards in the second half, but they kept forcing field goals. So I don't really have a huge complaint about how they played.
No, I think it's been kind of interesting to accept a lot of the criticism for Jeff Hafley as defensive coordinator, but here we are, 6 games in now, and then you look at a performance like here. But what stood out to me, you alluded to those rotations. He is still working on this thing. Like, he's still tweaking it, but you have to be pleased with he's finding, like, okay, this guy did something good last week. Let me find a way to get him on, like an Evan Williams or a Bullard or an Edrin Cooper. Like, they're finding ways to get some of these guys on the field. So, again, in terms of progress, the defense continually does that.
I don't think I've ever seen so much rotation in the secondary that I even saw today in an actual game. They had multiple looks in nickel, right? We saw Javon Bullard in the slot. We saw Keyshawn Nixon in the slot, which if essentially Jeff Hafley's looking at this like he's got 7 guys to play 5 spots when they're in nickel, and he's rotating them in, and that is hard to do. Usually you see your primary nickel alignment, and they just stick with it because it's difficult to get everyone in the secondary involved. That's not a position that leaves the field. You get your best 4 or your best 5 or maybe your best 6 if it's dime, and you just stick with it. But they had different nickel packages in personnel today. It was smart because that gets Evan Williams on the field, and that's a guy he forced a fumble today. He's got to be on the field at this point. That's how you can keep everyone involved, and maybe over the course of the season, top 5 will differentiate and separate itself. But it hasn't happened yet, so if it hasn't happened, you got to keep everyone involved. Tough to do. He did that well. The defensive front, the pass rush, I will say, I think Rashawn Gary had his best pass rush game today. There was a couple hustle plays, hustle pressures that in big moments that he had the quarterback hit, chasing Kyler Murray across the field that forced an incompletion on 3rd down. Like he was active today, even if it doesn't show that in the box score. They need more there in terms of rushing the passer up front, but the one thing this defense does extremely well, and Spoon, you alluded to it, they know how to rush to contain. And you look at what they've given up to some very mobile quarterbacks this season. Week 1, 13 rushes for 33 yards, a 2.5-yard average against Jalen Hurts. The next week, 4 rushes, 37 yards, 9.3 average to Anthony Richardson. High average, but certainly prevented him, a very mobile, very athletic quarterback, from taking over with his legs. Week 3, 3 rushes, 12 yards, 4-yard average to Will Levis. Week 4, 7 rushes, 15 yards, 2.1-yard average to Sam Darnold. Matthew Stafford obviously didn't have any rushes. He's the one statue they played so far. But today, 7 rushes, 14 yards, 2-yard average against Kyler Murray.
And it doesn't get more elusive than him.
No. In their first 6 games, they've had Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, and Kyler Murray, and they've prevented all 3 from changing the game with their legs. Kyler Murray last week, you're right, it doesn't get more elusive. He was a big reason, his legs were a big reason why they beat the 49ers in San Francisco. Yeah. He had over 80 rushing yards and a touchdown run on 7 scrambles. This is a guy that will break a game open with his legs. 7 rushes, 14 yards, 2-yard average. And it's not a one-off because, again, they've had some very mobile quarterbacks. They do that at a very, very high level. The numbers show it.
Yeah, I watched that Cardinals 49ers game in the airport, and I watched that 50-yard run. Murray just got to the outside. He was gone. I'm like,
he started pointing to the end zone like 40 yards before he even got there.
Yeah. There hasn't been one of those. And how many years have we seen mobile quarterbacks be the bugaboo for this defense?
I mean, Justin Herbert a couple years ago just ran wild on them, right up the middle. And two things that really, well, not 2 things. One thing that really stands out is that they've, with these rookies, particularly Bullard and Edgerrin Cooper, is that they've added speed and tackling ability. These 2 guys are not slacks when it comes to tackling.
And Evan Williams, too, made the open field tackle on Kyler Murray. He's a good tackler.
He's a really good form tackler. Yeah. Bullard had 1 miss, but there was also a time when he just played Murray perfectly. Used the boundary as a defender, and then just, shadowed him. And when he got close, he shot his shot and got him. He's just really accomplished, really technical player. And Cooper is... as skinny as he is, I don't know how he makes some of those tackles, but he's going at such a high rate of speed that he brings some force behind him.
Spoon, you wrote the column during the week, kind of giving Jeff Hafley his flowers a little bit and saying, okay, give him some time because it's early. In 4 wins, each game, they've allowed less than 20 points.
Yeah,
that's impressive. Yeah,
yes.
That's impressive. The other thing that stands out to me. Okay, let's say the elephant in the room. Xavier McKinney didn't have a pick today, right? First time in 6 games now he has had a pick.
He's human.
They still have 3 takeaways. No interceptions, but 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
This is a defense, 17 takeaways in 6 games. They had 18 all last season. It was the number 1 glaring omission of this defense last year under Joe Barry.
The year before that. The year before
Yeah,
that.
right. As long as we can remember, the one thing that we know they do at an elite level, maybe beyond rushing to contain, which they do at an elite level, is take the ball away. That's what a good defense does. And when they don't, on a day they don't have a pick, and Xavier McKinney, their potential All-Pro safety, ends his streak, they still find a way to take the football away. That's huge.
Yeah.
And why did McKinney not have a interception today? Because they did not test him. Not once.
Not
you
one
know,
time.
and Murray can throw the ball. He can throw the ball deep. And, you know, of course he lost Harrison, but, you know, that's going to be the MO. Is teams are going to be reluctant to beat McKinney deep down the field. So, you know, I really want to see the Packers. Okay, they're past this one. I want to see him play a team in a just knuckle fight. You know, maybe it'll be next week against Houston.
It's coming.
I don't know.
think so.
But, you know, that's when you find out. You know, it would be interesting to see them play Minnesota this week. You know, they got Detroit in a couple weeks, and that's going to be a dogfight. Although, boy, the Lions, I think, lost Aiden Hutchinson for the year. Suffered a really bad injury.
Seismic injury
that's
in the
just
NFC North.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, I am eager, and that's not going to happen against Jacksonville.
No.
So I guess this will be the closest game before they play Detroit.
C.J. Stroud and then Detroit a couple weeks after that. I think that we've all, maybe not you, Spoon, but I know I have. I've fallen guilty to being premature to saying the Packers have a good defense. So I'm not going to say that yet. But when you look at all the things coming together here, I think they have the makings of a potentially pretty good defense here, which when you have the offense surrounded by playmakers and a great distributor in Jordan Love, things need to kind of gel and come together, and the lack of off-field distractions from a knee injury to the quarterback to a suspension to one of your top receivers, that those things need to stop, right? But if things gel, this is a very good team, and that's important because they're playing in the best division of football right now.
I think now this team, you could say, has the blueprint that they need. Like, hey, this is what we're good at. Like, when we do this on offense, I think they found something to work with on defense, rotating in those guys and how they're playing. Obviously, we've talked about the pass rush and all that. But at least it's like, okay, when we do this is how we can win and win a lot of games. So I think, like you kind of alluded to it, Spoon, the key is just building off that. And what can they do next week and the week after that and beyond? Because, if they keep those pieces together, it's something.
It's a long season.
Yeah.
And you know, we always have to take it one game. You know, our job is to comment on the game and figure out where they're at. You know, in December, if they're playing like this, then they got a chance to go somewhere.
All right, special teams.
Oh, boy.
Before we talk kickers, because I know that's the other thing, I do have this question. I'm kind of cheated because I saw your Twitter, but I also want your opinion on it. Is it time to not have Jaden Reed returning punts and in the special teams?
Yes. Spoon,
Yes.
go.
End of
Okay.
Yes, drop the mic.
Period. End of discussion.
Yes.
Don't do that anymore. Like Keyshawn Nixon, and then you saw what he did with a punt return. He's a little bit, you worry about him fielding the ball. Jaden Reed is perfect fielding the ball. That's why they have him back there. But you can't risk him getting hurt. He is your marquee offensive player.
Except Jaden Reed was not perfect fielding the ball today. Now, it didn't count, but because the penalties, there were offsetting
he
penalties.
did get hurt.
So the first,
or did fumble, but
Yes.
was that a result of the horse collar, or did he just get hurt, or just cough it up?
I think he just coughed it up.
I
Yeah.
got to go back and look at the play.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Jaden Reed, Matt LaFleur will be the first to tell you get horse collar or not, it doesn't matter. You keep the football, right? You keep the football in your hands. So the first punt return that Jaden Reed fielded is when I said, okay, this has got to end. This experience it's got to end, because he took a pretty hard shot, and that's probably your best receiver. And there's not. It's fielding punts. Being a punt returner is even more physically taxing and brutal than being a running back. Like, there's not a more physically taxing and brutal position on your two deep than being a punt returner. You take some shots. If I'm the Packers, every single time I see Jaden Reed field a punt, I'm holding my breath. I don't want to see my best receiver taking those kind of shots. And then, you're right, the one reason why they've not gone to Keyshawn Nixon, they've stayed with Jaden Reed, is because he's sure-handed. One's a receiver, one's a defensive back. The hands are not the same. But if he's going to fumble, regardless of what happens on the play, if he's going to put the ball on the ground, why not? I mean, to take the shots off Jaden Reed, and I think Keyshawn Nixon, when he does field the ball cleanly, he's still as big of a playmaker as Jaden Reed is. Keyshawn Nixon still has more burst in the return game than anyone in the league, including Jaden Reed. Like, you saw the punt return immediately. Here's how you know Matt LaFleur doesn't excuse the fumble, because they took Jaden Reed out after the fumble, and they put Keyshawn Nixon in for the next punt after the offsetting penalties, and he takes it 39 yards.
I would say that's because of was it because of the injury?
Could have been an injury too.
Part of it, but still, you're right.
What I would say is use Jaden Reed inside the 10. You know, when you know it's inside the 20, pooch kick, use Jaden Reed. The rest of the time, you got to use Keyshawn Nixon. You know.
The bigger thing is just not taking those kind of shots on your best receiver.
Can't do it.
No reason for that. No. Take those shots off him. Let him make plays in offense. Give him the ball. There's versatility. He can play some running back. He makes plays in so many different ways. He's huge for what you do.
Although, you know, the Packers used Charles Woodson during his very best years as a punt returner.
I wouldn't like it.
Teams did too, you know. I don't know.
I look at it
I
this
guess
way.
I don't think it's worth the payoff, because I don't think he's that great of a punt returner. He's just he's good at fielding the ball.
The way I look at it is all four of those guys, and then Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed said this week, and I think he's right, they got 5 number ones. All four of those guys are important. You don't want to lose any of those guys to injury. But if you lose Dontavian Wicks to an injury, if you lose Christian Watson to an ankle, if you lose Romeo Doubs to a suspension, your offense can still go and win a game. Yeah. If you lose Jaden Reed at this point to an injury, you're in trouble. Like not every absence is the same. And so don't subject him as a punt returner.
Yeah. Don't he has not gotten injured as a position player. So why, go further and risk it on special teams? Just don't do it.
Yeah,
I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah. I mean, because when he's going, you know how when those starts, when they're on that hot start, it's because of him. Like, he got the first touchdown on the nice catch. And when they like to run the ball with him, just when he's going, that's when that offense really takes it to another level. So I agree.
True.
So as far as the rest of special teams, Wheeling, I guess Danny Wheeling, he only had the one punt in the first half,
back.
But it went 46 yards, like inside the 10. Yep. You got what you needed. Braden Arvison, he
I'm
missed.
not as bothered as everybody else seems to be.
I'm bothered.
I'll tell you
on
why.
that miss. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you why. Because every single one of his other kicks was right down the middle. It was just hit beautifully. And so he missed a kick. I mean, I think they're going to have to just go through that with him. He's showing that he can nail the ball down the middle. His other stuff isn't fading, and he missed one. I think they're just going to have to deal with that.
I'm bothered.
Buckle up. Here we go.
I'm bothered. They just went through that, though, with a rookie kicker last year, and it cost them.
He didn't hit the ball like that. He didn't hit the ball. We remember all his balls were pop-ups. You didn't know the wind would carry his balls. I mean, on a crappy day.
That's going to get edited out.
Yeah, I mean, humidity and wind, and his kicks were pretty darn straight. He does kick it straight.
It's the accumulation for me. He's 11 of 16 now on the season. The one thing that Anders Carlson did last year was he missed a kick every week. And now they've got a rookie kicker who's missing a kick every week. And goodness, whatever the weather was today, the thing that you wanted to see from Braden Arvison today was to build off his one actually clean sheet, because, clean sheet week 3 in Tennessee, that's only because of a defensive penalty on a miss.
Yeah.
All right, so this is 6 games, he's had 5 misses. One of those didn't count. This was a game for him to, crappy weather or not, to come out and put another clean sheet out there. And, I mean, he made what, a 36-yard or a 41-yard, and then missed the 44?
Correct.
That's a kick that's got to get made. But again, it's not on an island. It's not in a vacuum. It's the accumulation, and it's the week by week miss that they've just that's an issue to me.
There's nobody that I would pick up right now
That's the
that
thing.
is worth. I think you got to see him through, and I think it takes more than 6 weeks to see him through. Now, the guy they tried out, who's kicking for the Cardinals, Ryland, they thought he was pretty good in his workout. He's going to be there. Once Prater comes back from his injury, he's going to be there. Joseph is probably going to be there. So find out, keep going, and find out if he gets on some kind of a consistent, find some consistency. He's found more consistency. He's getting more attempts. He also has to be close to the league lead in attempts, I would bet. I'll bet you I'd have to look it up, but I'll bet he was near the top in the beginning, first of all. So I just I wouldn't give up on him that early. I really wouldn't. 6 games, no.
Where I'm with you is there's no one else right now. I think that if there was, you'd see him, and there's not. So they don't have a choice. I'm with you there. I would be surprised if they didn't scour the market every single week as these weekly misses continue. I would not be surprised if at some point you saw Greg Joseph back here. I mean, you can't just blindly go with Braden Narveson, a rookie kicker missing kicks every week, and just say he's our guy. No matter what, he's going to just stick with it. They need to be looking for someone that's not going to miss a weekly kick.
So I'm not. Who is that? Who's that?
Right.
It's
They
not
don't
Greg
have that right
Joseph.
now.
Greg Joseph has had like 3 years to do that. He hasn't.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So, my question would be though, if you look for a different kicker, would you still keep Narveson around? Could you keep 2 kickers
Well, you
practice
can keep him
squad
on
or
the practice squad
Yeah.
if you want, but you have
That's
the
too many
exemption
guys.
with the other guys, so you don't want 3 kickers in camp. You don't have enough kicks for 3 kickers. So, at the end of the season, as you're heading for the playoffs, then I might consider if there's a veteran out there, either trading for him or putting someone on the practice squad, and whoever's hitting that week in practice better, then go into the playoffs. But there's a long way to go.
I looked it up. To your point, Spoon, Braden Narveson entering today was tied for second in the league with 14 attempts, and he added 3 more today. Now, he's probably still behind Aubrey in Dallas because he had 16, and I think he had a few more today. I didn't watch that game, but the Cowboys had like 9 points. So that's some field goal attempts.
Yeah, I think it was a touchdown that they didn't give a PAT, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not positive.
Well, he missed a
I'm not
kick
positive.
too, and Aubrey missed a kick in the playoffs as well. Of the 5 kickers entering today that had at least 14 attempts on field goal, Narveson had the most misses with 4. So, it's they're going to stick with him because I'm with you. I don't think that they have another option out there that's better. But it's just got to be tiring. This happened last year with the rookie that couldn't make a kick week in, week out, and it hurt him. And I think that there have to be some organizational concern, some organizational fear with being in a similar spot now with a rookie that's missing kicks every week.
It's something that we will continually monitor because that is what we do. As we near the end, some closing words, final thoughts.
Aubrey hit 3 field goals. So.
He hit 3.
So he's still the
There
league
you go.
leader.
So, there's some ways you can kind of spin this to kind of wrap it up. But what are some final thoughts? One thing that I didn't even think about, we didn't address, was penalties. But they only had 5 for 40 yards. The Cardinals had 13 for 100 yards. In terms of clean football, it kind of goes back to the point of playing a little bit more cleaner football and things. They were able to do that. But I don't know. What are some final thoughts? And I'll start with you, Spoon. Just final words on what you take away from this and moving along.
Regarding those penalties, that's the first time I've seen Love have a lot of success with the hard count. He has a really good hard count. He learned from Rodgers. And I've heard it in camp. And but I wonder if he's used it as much since he's been hurt. I don't know whether that's been a distraction. How the Cardinals weren't ready for it, I don't know. If you have any kind of scouting report on him, you know that he has had some success doing it. That's something he's got to continue to do because it was a great weapon for Rodgers. And how many times did he get guys to jump off and still
Get a free play. Yeah.
get a free play? Penalties come and go, and I don't know. I think, I think what's most important is they got themselves back, head over water, 4-2. With Love out, that could have been a lot worse. And so now they're back in the mix with everybody, and now they got to hit their stride. Start hitting their stride a little bit. That's it.
Every win counts in the NFC North right now. This is the best division in football. This was a good win. It's against a team that won in San Francisco last week. The Cardinals came into Lambeau Field kind of looking like a potential upstart team, better than what people thought, and they handled them. They throttled them pretty good. But on what I'll remember this day on a personal level, my son, 12-year-old oldest son, got to go to his first Packers game today. He was in the stands, went with his mom, and that was a really cool moment. Going out to my son in section 106, top of the bowl before kickoff, and saying welcome to Lambeau Field, and just he moved. I moved here when he was 2 years old. He's grown up in Green Bay, a son of Green Bay, huge Packers fan. So it was really cool to see the joy on his face before kickoff at his first Packers game. It was a reminder that this is special. The state coming together. Packers football, it is a special thing, and people that kind of grow up in it, like my son, like many others, it's cool to see that side of it.
Yeah, so that's great. My only final thought, I'm not ready for the cold weather of Wisconsin. That's all I got.
This wasn't cold.
Yeah.
Just get yourself a good coat and you'll be all right.
I was saying,
This was not cold.
That's all you need. Don't turn
struggling.
the heat on until at least November 1st.
I haven't yet. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Too late.
Go get the blankets.
Too late.
You're in for a rough winter, man. It's only October.
I hope you're on the budget plan on your heating.
Yes, I am.
You know what? I moved here in 2014 from South Carolina, a little warmer than Green Bay. I'll never forget that divisional round playoff game against the Cowboys that year in January. I'm walking in to the stadium. Obviously, we have a heated press box, and security guy took my credential. He said, "How you doing today?" I'm like, "I'm good. It's a bit cold." It was like 20 degrees. It's a bit cold, but I'm doing well. He looked at me. He's kind of scoffed. He's like, "This isn't cold. This is balmy," as Wisconsin people can do. And I looked at him like he had 10 heads at the time because, again, I just moved a few months before that from South Carolina where it's never 20 degrees. But he was right. 20 degrees is balmy. So I'm just telling you, Dominique.
Oh, I'm in trouble. I know
You're in trouble. It's going to take a couple years to get used to it.
I know I am. Well, that was the thing for a comparison. I was talking to my family in Kentucky. It's 80 degrees right now. Sunny. They're like people's out riding bikes, wearing shorts and flip flops. And
coming back. I think we'll get in the 70s next week.
I hope so, because as Spoon would say, it was crappy weather.
That's been edited out. They don't know what
we can use that.
I got Spoon to swear.
That's great. Yeah, but I love it.
That's really hard.
I'll take my gold star anyway.
Gold star indeed. And I guess a gold star for the Packers because they're 4-2, getting a win in Lambeau Field. They are here once again next week, taking on the Houston Texans. Thank you all for checking out the Green 19 podcast. For Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates.